Welcome to a new generation of coalition politics, at least in local government in South Africa. Following last week's local government elections, we've got something of an interesting standoff in the big metropolitan areas of Johannesburg. Although the DA has laid claim to Nelson Mandela Bay, they don't have the 50+1% to ensure that they have outright control. They're going to have to do some deals. They're also going to have to do some deals in the city of Johannesburg, the city of Tshwane, and imagine if Ekurhuleni also went to a coalition. This could be very interesting, and it could chop the head off the ANC's dominance of local politics. And that has a whole range of implications for national elections come 2019. But before I get ahead of myself, from Mistra, Mathekga, he is a political analyst, and also Sithembile Mbete, she is a political science lecturer at the University of Pretoria. They join me this evening on the MoneyMakers. A predictable outcome, sort of. Nelson Mandela Bay, the DA would have hoped to have done a little bit better in Nelson Mandela Bay.
I think the DA was hoping to win Nelson Mandela Bay outright. And I don't think that they were expecting to be in the position that they're in now, where they have to find allies, they have to really try win over the smaller parties. They
didn't crack the greater Nelson Mandela Bay townships. That's where the weakness was.
Yes, so what they didn't do is they didn't crack the ward vote in order to be able to get enough seats at ward level to really put them in front and put them ahead. What they did do is they managed to improve some of their percentage vote in the Nelson Mandela Bay townships, which is what has contributed to them getting the bigger share of the proportion of the vote. So
it's where the DA is most dominant. But am I right, Ralph Mathekga, in saying that Ethel Trollope can't exactly go into the office and start calling the shots just yet?
Well, certainly, in principle, they might be dominant coming from this election, but they cannot call the shots yet. It could turn the other way. There is a possibility that the whole coalition could become a package where you have Nelson Mandela Bay, you've got Ekurhuleni, you've got the city of Johannesburg, you've got the city of Tshwane going as a package. And if the package favors the ANC and the EFF, there is a possibility that the DA could it won't work for them. So you cannot rule that out. And I think that it's more likely to go in the form of a package.
It all depends on who you believe, and when words come out of politicians' mouths, it's often quite difficult to see what is fact and what is fiction, because Julius Malema has made it very clear that he will not do a deal with the ANC, but politicians are always open for a deal, you know this.
Indeed, they are. And I think that, you know, what the EFF is weighing up, what other small parties are weighing up, is their ideological, political convictions and the desire to have power, the desire to have your hands on the levers of power and everything that comes with, the resources, the salaries, the opportunities for patronage. And so, I mean, Julius Malema makes it sound, of course, as is his wont as a revolutionary, makes it sound as if they were taking a direct, principled line. But the thing is, there's a lot attractive about going into government, and I think it's going to be a very tough decision for them to make.
And it's a question of who gets to call the shots, because if we have the EFF getting into bed with the ANC in local government, that's surely the end of the EFF. It would be a betrayal of brand promise, if nothing else.
Indeed. And what it's going to be is that, you know, if you look at some of the EFF strongholds, Mathekga, parts of Limpopo, you know, certain parts of Gauteng, those are areas where people are unhappy with the ANC. They want it out of the ANC. So that if the EFF then decides to strike a deal with the ANC at local government level, you know, the likelihood that it'll be seen as a betrayal by its core supporters is very high, and it may weaken them fundamentally before 2019.
However, can the EFF get into bed with the Democratic Alliance? Essentially, they both want the same thing, and that commonality is they want the ANC out. Are they uneasy bedfellows, Ralph? We've seen political alliances conjured up in the past with a common dislike of a common enemy. Is this one are these two guys too far apart to come together?
I think it's much easier for the EFF to explain coalition with the DA, in the sense that if had they gone to the ANC, or if they go to the ANC, there is always this suspicion that Malema wants to go back to the ANC. The only problem he has is with the current leader of the ANC, Jacob Zuma. So if they go into a coalition with the DA, they could just say that this is just for convenience. This is just to ensure that there is stability in governing those municipalities. We are not going to merge with the DA. It's just a temporary arrangement.
Minority partners winners in political coalitions do tend to come off second best. The National Party was in a coalition with the ANC in the Western Cape post-1994, or was it post-1998, 99? There was an ANC NP coalition. Oh yes, they're gone. In the United Kingdom, we saw the Liberal Democrats get into bed with the Conservative Party after the previous general election in the United Kingdom. The Liberal Democrats have got 8 MPs after being quite an interesting force 10 years ago. They're gone. I mean, is it not the kiss of death as a minority party to go into a coalition?
Indeed, it can be. And what we've seen is, in South African politics, the independent Democrats, where they've been absorbed into the DA.
And that's part of a strategy, though. It's the Democratic Alliance. It's an alliance of people who believe in a version of democracy. I mean, that makes sense. This is slightly different.
It is slightly different, and I think that the danger always for the smaller parties going into a coalition is that your machinery as a political party is not as sophisticated, not as large as the bigger partner. Secondly, that your identity can disappear, and I think especially that's a worry for a party like the EFF that has developed a very strong brand, a very strong political identity. And how does it maintain that if it has to deal with the minutiae of local government? It's not sexy to be in local government and to govern a local government. So when you're worrying about budgets, about sanitation, about burst pipes, about
But if you can make a difference at that level and be seen to be in a coalition that does make a difference, if you are in Port Elizabeth and you go into New Brighton and you do eradicate the bucket toilets, for example, which are a scourge of our history, if you can do that one thing, you make a difference in the lives of those people. You're seen to work. That then counts in your favor, surely.
It does,
ahead of 2019.
but it's very difficult to make that kind of difference. And I think that that's something that the EFF is only realizing now, is that making a difference at local government is hard. The DA has seen it in Cape Town, where it has succeeded incredibly well in the areas that are resourced, that do have ratepayers, that can, contribute to the fiscus. It struggles in areas where the base of infrastructure was low to begin with. And I think that the EFF, that's not its core strength. The EFF is not a party of technocrats, it's a party of revolutionaries. And so I think they'll find it incredibly difficult to make a difference at local government.
Yeah, and maybe that's why the coalition angle is a useful angle if you're going to grow the EFF into the future. How does it change the dynamics then in national parliament? Because suddenly you've got to be best friends at local government level, but actually you may be in opposition in parliament if you're a DA and EFF coalition, but you're still at opposite ends of a political spectrum.
I think that the face of local government has changed and the importance of local government has been realized by other parties. I believe that actually you can use local government to demonstrate that you can govern national level. I mean, if you get the city of Tshwane, for example, or the city of Johannesburg, you can actually demonstrate at national level that you can do something. And as for the EFF, how does it change the dynamics between national and local? The EFF will have to work technocratically. Big municipalities, suppose they get into that coalition, gives them an opportunity for prominence in council, and I think they still have to maintain that radical presence at national level. But if they don't do that, the voters might punish them.
But also, you run the risk of diluting your radical presence. So if you've got Mbuyiseni, who's a hugely gifted orator, do you keep him in parliament where he is visible, or do you put him into a local government where he can be effective?
It's a dilemma. You can't be in government and disrupt it at the same time. You're going to have to make a decision as to what works. And I think EFF will have to soften up because this might just push them to mature much quicker than they thought they would.
Okay, so here we got a scenario where Joburg is up for grabs, Tshwane is up for grabs. Is Ekurhuleni realistically up for grabs by opposition parties? Is it feasible that they could be in this package that you both seem to agree is a likely solution negotiated at senior executive level of the political parties? Is Ekurhuleni up for grabs as well?
You would need cooperation amongst the smaller parties and an agreement amongst them that they won't allow themselves to be bought by the ANC, because the ANC is pretty close to getting that 50+1 in Ekurhuleni, and so you will need the smaller parties to all agree that they won't allow themselves to be bought by any of the bigger parties. So I think that one of the things that this coalition situation that we're in is showing is the need for strategic cooperation amongst the smaller parties, and some smaller parties with, who are just barely surviving, with very strong leaders, many of them, and with divergent interests. And it'll be interesting to see how so not the big three, not the EFF, not the DA, not the ANC, how the UDM cope, the Freedom Front Plus, how do the AIC that came out of nowhere, how do they negotiate with each other in order to take a united front?
Best guess scenario, because that's what it is at this stage. We don't know what's happening in whatever cozy boardroom these guys are meeting in, where, I don't know, James Self and Dalian Mpofu are chatting, or whoever is having the conversations. What's your best guess? Let's go to you first, Ralph.
Well, I think it's going to be a package. It could go either way. DA or
No, you can't. No. This is a single view. This isn't, it could go either way. You're a political analyst, not an economist or a sports commentator. So,
putting me on the spot.
Best
please.
guess, best single guess.
Let's say the EFF is much more likely to work with the DA.
Okay.
And
could we see the EFF work with the DA across the 4 big metros? Nelson Mandela Bay, Tshwane, City of Joburg, and Ekurhuleni.
The package is the most attractive, because if you have a package, you can actually bring in Ekurhuleni, and all you need is other 1 or 2 smaller parties to garner that 50 plus part of the coalition. So I think the package is the one that's going to be much more attractive than looking at these municipalities individually.
Sithembile?
If the EFF is playing the long game, I agree with Ralph that there's going to be a package. It's much better for them to go into coalition with the DA. Ideologically, they don't fit, but those are national problems. Those aren't local government problems. And it might be and I think the DA would be a good partner for the EFF to piggyback on, because it's got the technocrats that can do the running of the municipalities, while the EFF can show that it is capable to govern.
The status quo is maintained at national level, but the real country, the country we experience on a daily basis, is up for grabs, and it could go either way. It is so exciting. In some ways, it's a little bit frightening, and I run the risk of breaking into a Queen song, but we're not going to be doing that this evening. Sithembile Mbete is a political science lecturer at the University of Pretoria, and of course, Ralph Mathekga is a political analyst at Mapungubwe. You can call it Mistra, if you like. Thank you so much for watching the Moneymakers this evening. So much up for grabs. The political uncertainty that is dominating the landscape right now, certainly not affecting the currency markets, bizarrely enough. But more on that and other subjects, of course, in future Moneymakers. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.